Call to order City of Apache Junction City Council meeting of February 4th, 2025 to order, and ask everyone to put their cell phones on silent. The invocation will be led by Councilmember Heck and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Nesser. Roll call. Okay. Roll call.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege and freedom we have of being able to gather together this evening to discuss city business. We ask that you give the staff and council wisdom and clarity in their decision-making. Keep us mindful that we serve the residents of this city. We ask you to watch over the men and women who serve in our military the world over. Keep them safe in these troubling and turbulent times. We ask also for your blessing on our first responders, including our police and fire departments, along with our EMS personnel. Please keep these brave men and women safe in their duties to protect and care for the residents of this city. Thank you for the honor and privilege we have to serve the residents of this city. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Present.
Councilmember Cross,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Soller.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. As a reminder, all items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion. If a council member wishes to remove an item for further discussion, the request must be made prior to the approval of the consent agenda and will be moved to new business. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move the consent agenda be accepted and approved as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Soller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regional intergovernment meetings and updates from the council. Anyone over here? Yes. Sure.
So over the last couple weeks, or a few weeks, we've had a couple neighborhood meetings. One was down south in the new part of the city, and one was up here at Road Haven. And a lot of great people turned out for these meetings. A lot of great questions were asked. Some of the concerns that they had were regarding water and the supply of water available for future growth. And then some concerns down south were hunting and shooting just south of the new community out there on the state trust land. So if you have the opportunity to make it to one of these community neighborhood meetings, you know, absolutely try and get there. They're very informative, and a lot of information is provided.
Mr. Heck?
No.
No. Anyone else? Want to make a comment concerning them?
Sure. Last week, the mayor and I attended Legislative Day at the city's capitol. We got to talk to a lot of elected officials, from county supervisors to mayors, council members, and even our legislators. And one of the hot topics was this food tax bill. You know, hearing all the mayors talk from all the different cities and towns, this is something that would be very crippling to small towns, because we rely on a huge portion, well, 10%, AJ, 11% of our budget relies on this food tax. And the consensus we were getting from the legislators that they want to push this through. So if you find this on a ballot here in the next couple of years, vote no for it, please. Thank you.
Okay. I got a couple of things that, first off, starting off with the Apache Junction Chamber of Commerce. They have their networking event and ribbon cutting. And the ribbon cutting was for the Arizona Bluegrass Association. And they also announced their upcoming event that was occurring this past weekend. And it was the past weekend was the third annual Bluegrass Roundup. There was over 600 people that showed up for this event. They even had an area set aside where you could have sit in your chairs and enjoy the music with your dog. And it was really a great presentation and was very well put on. And of course, I enjoy bluegrass music as well, so I was fully involved. There was also one band that I wanted to single out in the aspects from the chamber, from Chandler. They were made up of a bunch of children. They had over 20 young adults that were put into this band group that was up there on the stage, and they put on a very enjoyable performance. They also had many people were spending the night in their trailers or RVs that were parked in the back parking area. So they had plenty of performances that they invited everybody to come back and listen to them in the evenings. So we look forward to them returning next year. I also attended the neighborhood meeting at new development down Radiance, and like Darrell Cross said, that it was very informative. We were there presenting them with the information, what goes on here at the library, Parks and Rec, the police, and several of our departments. And it was an education for them to learn what the city is taking care of them and the aspect on it and what's going on in our entire community. So it was a very eventful evening for them. Okay, city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bryant Powell, City Manager. As time goes through the legislative process, Vice Mayor, Mayor, and everyone, we will definitely keep you posted on, through Rob, our updates on what's going on as the food tax discussion evolves. Tonight, I just want to report and provide some information to the community about a very important arterial in our community, Meridian Road. Meridian Road is being studied by the region. It's a very tricky road. It's right in between. Meridian means the middle. It's in between two counties. It's in between two cities, really three cities, and the landowner is the state land department, mostly, in some areas. And so we are working closely with a government agency called MAG, Maricopa Association of Governments, which can help bring these groups together and really discuss on maintenance and construction of this arterial, because for many, many years, no one really wanted to pick it up. And so there is an open house that's being provided to the community, and we invite everyone in Apache Junction to come over to Desert Ridge Junior High to learn about it and give the insights on their take of Meridian Road. And then tonight, I would like to invite Jill up before we have Eli finish the current events, and we have the completion of our comprehensive financial audit and the results, and Jill is here to provide that report.
All right, thank you. Mayor Wilson, members of the council, thank you for having me here this evening to discuss the audit. My name is Jill Shaw, and I was the engagement partner on the audit. This is our second year doing the audit for the city. Let's see if I can figure this out here. There we go. So before I start with just my presentation, I do want to thank the finance department, so Angelique, Connie, for everything that they do to make the audit happen. They pull a lot of documents for us. They're very prepared, they're professional, and it is a pleasure to work with them, and they help the audit be a smooth process. So thank you to them. A little bit about the audit timeline. It ends up being about a 9-month process. We start the audit in the early summer. In May, we issue the engagement letter. We come out in the summertime and we do what we call preliminary field work. So we look at that time, we look at compliance with state statutes, at some of the preliminary numbers, and then we come back in October once the books are closed and we look at the final numbers and audit those. And then the audit reports were recently issued just last week, January 28th. This is just a little reminder that this presentation is required by state statute, that councils hear about the audit process, and as auditors we like that because it's transparent. You have a chance to see what the audit results were and ask any questions, but also management has already accepted responsibilities for the financial statements. They are finalized, and management has signed off on those. As far as the scope of our services, we are covering several bases. The audit is done in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, as well as government auditing standards, being a government, and then uniform guidance, which are the federal regulations required because the city spends more than $750,000 in federal awards. So it covers state compliance as well as federal compliance. We also are required to attest on the annual expenditure limitation report, so that compares total expenditures to state limitations, as well as we look specifically at expenditures out of the HERF fund and make sure that those are in accordance, being spent in accordance with statutes. Any communications that we issue as auditors, they will talk about fraud and just, who has the responsibility for fraud. Ultimately, the responsibility does rest with management. During the audit, we do conduct inquiries with certain members of management and employees, as well as a council member, to ask about their awareness of fraud. But it's a common misconception that the purpose of the audit is to identify fraud. So we like to just bring that to your attention, that really the purpose of the audit is that auditors were responsible for providing reasonable but not absolute assurance on the financial statements. So at the end of the day, our independent auditor's report is stating that the financial statements are materially properly stated, and we didn't find any material errors in those numbers. We are also required in our communications to let you know when there are estimates in the financial statements. Really, the only significant estimate in the city's financial statements has to do with the pension plans, because those pension liabilities and assets are based off of actuarial valuations. So that's a common estimate at all Arizona municipalities. We are also required to let councils know if we have made any adjustments to the financial statements. So if we find errors in the financial statements, we would propose an audit adjustment. And these two adjustments that you see here are what we call past audit adjustments. And in this case, these are not necessarily errors, but they are numbers in the financial statements that are deemed to be immaterial, so management has chosen not to make these adjustments, but they're more than a trivial nature, as you can see from these dollar amounts. So they do meet the threshold with which we have to communicate these to councils, but again, they are immaterial, and as a big part of the audit is identifying these materiality thresholds and ensuring that there are not, when we say material misstatements, we're not necessarily looking at every single dollar, because that would take years and years to do. So we do set materiality thresholds so that we can provide that opinion that's reasonable but not absolute assurance. Some other required communications: if we had had any disagreements with management, we would be required to communicate those. So I'm happy to say that we didn't have any disagreements over accounting principles or matters. At the end of the letter, management did sign the required representation letter. So that's the letter that they sign stating that they're taking responsibility for the financial statements. And as well, our independent audit report, it does have that word independent in it. So we are continually assessing our independence to make sure that we're not providing services where we're overstepping our bounds and crossing that line of where we can no longer be deemed independent. So there's also information in there about that. Just to give you some highlights, the main audit report is called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, or the ACFR. So this is the report that has the audited financial statements in it. These are just some highlight pages. On page 1 is our independent auditor's report, where we provided an unmodified opinion. So that's also known as a clean opinion. And if you have bonding agencies or just users of the financial statements, they're able to look in there and see that it has that wording in there as they're doing their due diligence, that there was a clean opinion, so that's great news. On page 5 is the management's discussion and analysis, and I like to point out this section to councils because it kind of talks about the numbers and what the causes for some of the numbers and the changes from the prior year are, so that can be a good section to read. Page 23 is the financial statements. That is the underlying accounting records of the city. And as mentioned, we did not make any adjustments to those underlying accounting records. Page 33 is the notes to the financial statements, which gives a little bit more detail behind the numbers. And then page 87 starts the statistical section, which is an unaudited section, but it provides 10 years of historical data for things like revenues, expenses. So it can be an interesting section to see just where the growth and changes have happened within the city. As part of the audit, we do also look at uniform guidance, so that federal piece, and the end result of that audit is called the single audit. So there we are required to look at different federal programs, and we rotate each year which ones we look at. Typically, it does end up being the largest program. So this year we audited the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, so some of those ARPA monies that are still being spent. We did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses or non-compliance with respect to how those monies were spent. In addition to looking at compliance with federal regulations, we're also spending a great deal of time looking at the internal controls of the city. So what are those checks and balances in place, and do we see weaknesses there where, while there may not have been a misstatement noted, there are weaknesses that could lead to a future misstatement. So if we had had any findings that were required to be reported, they would have been called significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. So I'm happy to report that we did not report any of those kinds of findings. And also you may notice in this report, it's currently in draft form, but when it's issued, it will say that the city is not considered a low-risk auditee, and this is simply because a single audit hasn't been done the last 2 years. It wasn't required, and I'm sorry, that's a typo, but it wasn't required in fiscal 22. So in fiscal 25, if a single audit is required, then the city will become a low-risk auditee. So just some final comments. Again, management and staff were very cooperative and helpful to us in getting us what we need in order to be able to do the audit. The audit is meeting all state and federal regulatory deadlines. The federal deadline is until March 31st, so they're well ahead of that, as well as they are ahead of the deadline for the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. So they are filing for that award and have received that award in the past. So with that, that's just kind of an overview of the audit process, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about what we do as auditors or about the reports.
Any questions?
Hope I didn't
Thank
bore
you.
all. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jill. And while we might not be super excited to get an audit, we need it. We need to review, we need to double check everything, and appreciate Jill and her team and her work. And lastly, for my report tonight, we'll bring up Eli to give us some updates on current events.
Real quick, though, I also want to acknowledge our city and city management, because it seems like everything went really well and everybody worked together, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. It's a busy couple of weeks in Apache Junction. So we'll start off with the fact that it is once again, go to the slide, once again free dump week. So from February 3rd to the 8th, we work with Republic Services for this opportunity, and there are several requirements and restrictions to make this work. It's one free truck bed of refuse that you can take. You do need to bring proof of residency. Also some safety equipment's required. So if you plan to do this, please visit our website. Front page of the website, you'll see a link where you can learn a little bit about what you need to take advantage of this. So next I'll cover our State of the City. We do this annually. A couple little changes you'll notice this year if you come out. We have a new venue. It should be a really good event. It always is, and a really good chance, especially for people in the community, to come and learn about what's happening behind the scenes and what our future looks like over the next few years in Apache Junction. All right, Lost Dutchman Marathon is coming up on February 16th with the accompanying races that we also do. I begged on behalf of Councilmember Solar to open up a spot for the marathon. Still sold out. Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah. So we'll see what we can do next year, but this year, these other 4 races still have plenty of spots, and it's a huge, huge benefit to our community. All the money goes to underserved youth in the community. So please look for any last-minute chances to join a race or even volunteer at this event. We'll skip to Lost Dutchman Days. So 3 things about Lost Dutchman Days that I want to highlight tonight. The first being the rodeo. This takes place over 3 days, the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And you can get pre-sale tickets at the Apache Junction Visitor Center. They just got a new batch of pre-sale tickets available. Every year the rodeo sells out, so definitely make plans to either get a pre-sale ticket or show up Friday morning from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., where they'll be selling tickets at the front gate for any of the 3 days of the rodeo. And rodeo is super popular. These tickets will sell out, so definitely make your plans. Next thing I want to highlight about Lost Dutchman Days, while the rodeo goes on, there's also a 3-day carnival. You can also get pre-sale carnival ride tickets at the Apache Junction Visitor Center. You'll find your normal fair rides, fair games. Pretty fun. I went last year. Great family event, and it's happening right there next to the rodeo in concert with that event. Lastly, the famous Lost Dutchman Days Parade is taking place on February 22nd at 9 a.m. And if you want to have a float in this parade, it's not too late. We have until February 6th to register any new floats. Really interested in Lost Dutchman Days, there's other events that have already happened, that will be happening. These are the 3 big ones I wanted to highlight tonight. And with that, that's it for this week. Thank you.
Busy events coming up, some great events as well. Okay, public hearings. Consideration and applicants for a Series 6 bar liquor license for First Water Cocktail. Evie.
Thank you, Your Honor. This evening, you have the opportunity to make a recommendation for approval or denial to the Arizona Liquor Board for a Series 6 bar liquor license for Justin Evans, who's the owner of First Water Cocktail Bar. It's located at the corner of Broadway and Ironwood. The Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control received his application on December 23rd, and that same day it was forwarded to the clerk's office. A notice of public hearing for tonight's meeting was posted at the premises on January 13th, which allowed for the 20-day notice as required by law. The clerk's office did receive correspondence from our 4 safety inspection departments, which were the Apache Junction Police Department, Building and Safety, Planning and Zoning, and the Superstition Fire and Medical. They all 4 responded with recommendation for approval. The applicant was notified of the meeting this evening, and he is here if you have any questions for him or for myself.
Any discussion from the council? Would the owner like to say anything?
I just want to say thank you, and we're happy to be doing business in Apache Junction. So we're actually operating currently. This will be our 2nd liquor license. Business has been great. We're really happy to be out here. People are fantastic. They've been really supportive. It's been a lot of long hours. Yeah. I'm going on about 3 hours of sleep every night. It's been a lot of fun. The reason why we're stacking another license is because the state liquor board requires you to utilize a license within 3 years, or it reverts back to the state. So they allowed us to stack this 2nd liquor license on our 1st license. So it was a good move for us.
Okay. I will now open to the public hearing.
Thank you.
5-minute time limit with a 1-minute warning you will hear. Please state your name and address for the record. Anyone like to speak on this? I see a whole pile of non-movements. Yes.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I just want her to understand that this is a public hearing for this liquor license right now. No. Yeah, you're wanting to do a call to the public, and that's later in the meeting. Oh, okay. Thank you.
No.
Thanks, Evie.
You can't hear very good.
Oh. Okay. I will now close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Mayor,
Yes.
I move that the application for a new Series 6 bar license for First Water Cocktail Bar located at 1545 West Broadway Avenue be recommended.
Second.
And approved.
So that was recommended for approval.
Approval, yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Councilmember Solar,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, consideration for the application for Series 6 liquor license for the Wheelhouse Tavern. Abby.
Thank you again, Your Honor. Once again, we have a Series 6 bar liquor license that was submitted by Chandra Lee Robinson with the Wheelhouse Tavern located at 495 West Apache Trail. The Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control received her application again on December 23rd, and that same day forwarded it to the clerk's office. The notice of public hearing was posted at the establishment on January 13th to comply with all state law requirements. The applicant was notified by first-class letter and email of tonight's public hearing, and she is here if there are any questions. Again, correspondence was received from our 4 safety departments, the police department, building and safety, planning and zoning, and superstition, fire and medical, all with recommendation for approval. And on that, I can answer any questions, or you can call on the applicant.
Any questions? Does the applicant wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name's Chandra Robinson, and I've been a citizen of Apache Junction for over 25 years. My husband, Billy, and I own Steel and Stitches here in town, and we decorate a lot of your guys' apparel. We are now opening the Wheelhouse Tavern, located at 495 West Apache Trail, formerly the La Casita restaurant. This liquor license is a quota license that was once owned by Mary Ledoux at Captain's here in Apache Junction for 22 years. In August of last year, the bar was sold to Cindy Pearson, who was unable to secure the lease at that location. The council approved the license at that time, and we jumped on board with Cindy to try to help find a new location. I worked closely with Patrick Ainsworth and a local realtor, but we couldn't find a building. So in September, I blindly wrote a letter to the operator of La Casita, Gilbert Martinez, and asked if we could acquire his lease. He answered back and agreed he wanted to retire, and this was an opportunity for him to do so. In negotiations with the landlord, David Hutchins, he decided to sell us the property instead of leasing it. Billy and I felt this was a great opportunity to own a beautiful piece of downtown and get Captain's back to operating. However, Captain D's opened in the old Captain's location, and we knew then we had to change the name. So my husband came up with the perfect name, the Wheelhouse Tavern. In November 2024, Cindy Pearson sold us the liquor license. She, and along with many others, have helped us to continue to try to get this business back open. We're asking the council to approve this liquor license at this time. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
You're up.
No. Yes.
Real quick. Chandra, just real quick. So now, you and your husband, you are the owners now of the La Casita?
Yes.
Okay. And
It's
the
not
issue-
recorded on the assessor site yet, but I brought the deed. But yeah, we have
Okay.
purchased the building.
And that, any of that issue with the liquor license, I mean, there seemed to be in the past, there were some issues with that, but that's all been resolved now,
Everything's
and-
been resolved at this point.
Okay.
Now we're just going to improve that building, get the electrical and the plumbing up to code, and be able to open.
Okay, good. Wish you luck.
Thank you.
All right, I will now open it to public hearing. There's a 5-minute time limit with a 1-minute warning session you will hear. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I'm Cindy Pearson, and I acquired this liquor license from Mary Ledoux that had it for 22 years. And we wanted to keep this going, and they stepped up and purchased a building to put this bar into. And I'd appreciate you approving this liquor license.
Thank you.
Oh, you want my address?
Sure.
269 North Winchester,
Thank you.
Ajax.
Anyone else want to speak on this? Seeing none, I will now close public hearing and ask for a motion.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the application for a new Series 6 bar liquor license for the Wheelhouse Tavern located at 495 West Apache Trail be recommended for approval.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Councilmember Soller,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. New business. Presentation and discussion consideration of rejection of proposals for the downtown property. Who's going to speak on this? Shelley?
Sherelle.
Sherelle?
As Sherelle's coming up,
Oh,
Your
there
Honor, I
she
just
is.
wanted to do a quick preamble. Sherelle's working with us in the procurement area of finance and the opportunity to get to know her, but we have worked hard to get this RFP out. She has an update on it.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Wilson and Vice Mayor Schroeder and members of the council and esteemed colleagues. Thank you for your time this evening. As you were saying, my name is Sherelle Waskowitz. I'm with the City of Apache Junction, and I'm proud to be on the procurement team. I'm here regarding RFP number 2024-006 for the sale or ground lease and development of the city-owned land for commercial purposes located within the City of Apache Junction. This request for proposal was posted on our public purchase website November 6, 2024, and the proposal submission was officially opened in the clerk's office, the city clerk's office, on January 9th, 2025. The city received two proposals, LDG Development and Old West Welding Service. After thorough review, we have decided to reject all bids. Both submissions were considered non-responsive due to the lack of required documents. Specifically, neither proposal included a proposed purchase price or ground lease rate for the entire property, which are critical components for moving forward. Additionally, Old West Welding Service failed to submit several important documents, including a site plan, project team background, and financial preparedness information. As a result, we are unable to proceed at this time with these proposals. I'd like to take a few moments and ask if any of you have any questions.
Yes, Your Honor. So these the two bidders, I don't get the sense that these are real high-end developers. I mean, I guess my concern is, is there something that's lacking here? Is it not big enough that we would get a real serious developer? I mean, what is the rationale right now for, a welding service to come in and develop 10 acres?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Heck, I can speak to a little bit about that. LDG Development is a large developer out of state. They primarily focus on multifamily development. Their proposal fell short in many regards, as Sherelle explained. So they had the experience and wherewithal, but the proposal didn't match up with our goals. Old West Welding Service is a local firm. I don't think it might have been their first time responding to an RFP like this, and maybe didn't understand completely everything that we were asking, which was very detailed in the RFP. But we have a new economic development director starting on Monday, and our plan is to go back to the drawing board, see if there are any gaps that we can fill to reach more people. If you remember back in October, we had that breakfast where we invited a bunch of developers out. The whole purpose was to get them to be aware of this coming down the pike. So it might speak to some other issues of maybe market readiness, but we just have to take a look, regroup, and see when our new economic development director suggests we go out, or maybe other ideas that we need to do before going back out.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I feel like this isn't some land we need to just rush, get it built right away, right? So, I mean, if
Right.
we get a couple of these RFPs, and if they don't meet what we're looking for, then I don't see any reason. I mean, is this something that every time that these come in, and if, you know, the staff says, hey, you know, it's not exactly the right fit for us, do you have to bring it back to us to?
Joel might be able to answer that best. I wondered that same question too when we went through this process, but I think state law requires that, Joel, if we do go through the procurement process, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor. Yeah, the procurement process requires, if you do an RFP, if you don't feel they are responsive, staff will make the recommendation they're either responsive or non-responsive. If they're non-responsive, you are supposed to go and basically say they're rejected, and you have to do that publicly. And then you can start another one. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Queen Creek do this 3 times?
So Queen Creek, when they purchased their land and when they went through the process, it took them 3 or, I don't know, we need to find out exactly. I want to say at least three times.
So it's not uncommon, that's all I was saying. And this is a big deal. Yeah, we do recommend definite rejection.
Yes.
I kind of think that down the road here in the very near future, there's several multifamily developments that are getting ready to probably break ground within the year that will really entice a much better proposal. And so once these developers see that there's going to be a great base of residents available to make the project work, I think we'll have some really good proposals.
Anyone else? Yes.
No, you guys answered the way I was going to answer.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you. Excuse me, do I have a motion on rejection of the proposals?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the rejection of proposal for the downtown 10-acre property RFP number 2024-006 be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Vice Mayor Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser.
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes?
Councilmember Soler,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cross,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you. Now we're to the call to the public, so I would like to remind everyone the call to the public is a courtesy and not required by law. It's a time for the public to express requests, communications, comments, and suggestions. Requests to speak form must have been completed and handed to the city clerk before the end of the city manager's report. All issuance shall be presented in a professional manner without personal attacks. Under the open meeting law, council cannot engage in the discussion on issues presented, but may respond to criticism and may direct staff to follow up with the speaker directly or place the matter on a future agenda for the council discussion. There is a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. And I have, almost forgot where I put them. I have 3 of them right here. Kathleen Meek.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Catherine Meek, 1327 South Bel Air Road. Just a first note about the free dump week, it's a limit of 500 pounds, which sometimes causes people grief when they get to the dump. Next, I didn't say anything last council meeting, but I'd like to thank the AJ Mounted Rangers for coming out and assisting Superstition Mountain Museum for our Native American Festival. There are some rangers that have been there more years than I have been, and their knowledge and their expertise in handling the crowds and how to get things set up so traffic flows smoothly, it's invaluable. It's just something that we could not have done such a great event without having their help. We had over 1,800 visitors come in, and we didn't have any traffic backups or any challenges whatsoever, except for one person falling off his bike down the road, which had nothing to do with our festival. The main reason I wanted to speak tonight is after a couple meetings ago, one of the fellow citizens mentioned his concerns about the raising of land along Apache Trail. On Highway 88, there's a sovereign citizen who has requested fill dirt for a long time. And after Mo mentioned that, I started watching as I was driving by. With the way the ground has been raised, when it rains, if it rains, 88 will be flooded because what used to be a wash is now above the grade of the highway. And there's no culvert there for it to run around, so it's going to go into the road, which will be a maintenance issue pretty quickly too. The other section that's been raised up is substantially higher than everything around it, and that used to be a wash also. So I don't know what can be done, but it seems like with Highway 88, ADOT has caused a lot of trouble with development up the way because the rainwater issue was not addressed properly. And a lot of improvements had to be made on the side of Highway 88 in order for permits to be approved. This person, I can understand, doesn't want to get permits, but they're really impacting their neighbors seriously and any travelers along Highway 88. Thank you.
Excuse me. Nancy?
My name's Nancy Andrushak, 925 North Plaza Drive, Lot 19. Basically, I came yesterday to talk about feeding the pigeons and what to do with the pigeons. In fact, I raised my kids up in Washington State, and we had a terrible problem with Canadian geese. In fact, at parks, you should not be allowed to feed wild birds in the park to keep the park cleaner for the kids to play in. But the fact that you can't ban everybody from feeding them in their own home is different, but we can restrict feeding the birds in the state parks, in the city parks. And the other thing I wanted to say real quick is I think the mayor should be a 4-year term. And I thank the mayor for talking to me yesterday because it's the first time I've done anything like this, and I really appreciate it, and I thank you.
Thank you. Donna Carr.
Donna Carr, Apache Junction resident. I was just wondering if now that the city owns the rodeo grounds, what are you going to do about the weed smoking? Because I know when I bring my grandkids, and I went with my kids and grandkids to the Renaissance, people were blowing weed smoke in my grandkids' faces. Now, the fact of the matter is I can't turn around and shove a drink down their throat and say, here, take this shot of whiskey, but it's okay for some stranger to come over and blow weed smoke in their face? I don't think so. So I would like to know, well, during the rodeo, during the carnival, what you're going to do about the weed smoking. Second thing is I guess I wanted to know about the free dump. You say it's a truckload, but does that mean that you have to keep it even with the bed of the truck, or can you strap down a load, or how much can you weigh? Because I got some tree trunks that I had to dig up, and not sure how much they weigh. So I'd like to know about that. The other thing is yeah, I'm going to harp on this again, about the reclaim, treated and filtered sewer water coming out our faucets. So if Trump can manage to get California to put the lake back where it was supposed to be instead of dumping the water into the ocean, maybe we can get more of the Colorado River, and instead of putting sewer water out our faucets, that we could get better water than sewer water. Because, like I said, they do not know how to get rid of forever chemicals at this point. They don't know how to get rid of the medications or the diseases out of the water. And until you have that technology, I don't think you belong putting it out our faucets. And I know I brought it up before. I know I got signatures before. 3.5 neighborhoods, I got 400 signatures. And yet, I was told meetings later is I know people are opposed to this, but we're still moving forward with it. I don't think you belong moving forward with it until you have that technology. Thank you.
Mayor?
Any comments?
Yeah, is there a way we could get some signs put up at LDD that, you know, smoking marijuana in public is illegal? Because even at some of the outdoor patios at bars, somebody will light one up real quick and take a heavy drag, and then it just wafts. And obviously, it's illegal. People shouldn't be doing it. So,
We'll definitely look at that, and Joel, if you can help us with some language and work with the police department on that.
can we just, and I'm just talking, you know, a decent-sized signs at the entrance, no public smoking of marijuana, something to that effect.
Smoking anyway, isn't it?
What's that?
A lot of places they have to be a smoking area.
You can only smoke in the smoking area.
Joel, am I right? You can't smoke marijuana publicly?
Once again, this is call to the public, so we'll have to get back to you on all these issues.
Thank you.
I have one. Can you ask Parks and Rec if they've had anybody feeding wild animals in our parks?
We'll do that, and Matt, can you help me with that? We'll get that.
Because I
from this,
agree,
yeah.
if they're doing that, we don't want that to happen in our parks.
We'll get that information, get it back to you.
Thank you.
And then,
No. Where you'd have to fill out a request to speak, and that's closed now. You can talk to us separate.
we're addressing that.
Okay.
Yeah, so Brian, Brian, just what Catherine's concerned, we are addressing that issue with that property.
That is correct. So this is not new to the city staff, and Joel, do you want to comment?
Well, we can't, this is not open for discussion right now.
So the answer is
I
yes.
just want to make sure that it's known that we are aware of it, yes.
Okay, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.